time for another cake life vlog where you get to see behind the scenes of my job as a cake decorator, and I give you a few hints and tips along the way. This week we are working on a birthday cake. It is a 2-tier and it is themed on Labyrinth. I have done a ton of Labyrinth cakes. As people say, what cake are you working on this week? Labyrinth, and they all go, another one. I think I do Labyrinth and Nightmare Before Christmas more than any other theme. But it is a cake design I have already designed before and made before. They're having a recreation with a very slight tweak. So I've got stuff set up behind me, so I'll show you my little tool station. So this is what I always have on hand when I am starting my cake. So I have a mat that I cut on because this is an IKEA worktop and it doesn't fare very well with knives. So I have this little spare work mat. It's spare because it's kind of bent and bored. This is what happened when we left it stood up in the car. And now it just stays like that. A few people have said I should try a hairdryer and to try and flatten it, but it's really like solidly shaped that way, so I'll have to see how I can fix that. I then have my bread knife / carving knife to trim the sides of the cake off. I have my wire cutter. I don't have an Agbe. This does me absolutely fine. It was about £3. I have used it for many years and I have a couple and it works fine for me. I also have my trusty Pro Froster. I have 2 Pro Frosters. As you can see, I melted this one in the dishwasher. When I used to put my tools and stuff in the dishwasher, this kind of fell through the bars and fell on like the heating element and melted the end, but it doesn't actually affect the use because this part is the only bit touching the cake, so this bit doesn't matter. I have some sugar syrup on hand in my squeezy bottle. This comes in really handy, so I just pour my sugar syrup into here and then it sprinkles it out nice and evenly through these holes to distribute it on the sponges. And a palette knife. I have loads of palette knives. I have them for ganache and I have them for buttercream. And I have my turntable with a working board and my drum that's the same size as my cake. So my working turntable isn't actually a cake turntable. It's not a turntable at all. It's actually a heavy duty TV stand, believe it or not. I scouted this out quite a few years ago now, and I know a few of you have bought them through my affiliate link, so thank you very much for doing that. It's linked below in whenever I'm doing tutorials and stuff and I'm using it, it's always linked below. And I know a lot of you have bought one because I see it popping up on Instagram and stuff. But the reason I bought this is because cake turntables are usually on a pedestal, and when you're covering with paste, the paste kind of hangs off down the pedestal and it can tear. And I just like it having low level because I'm only short anyway. I'm 5'1", so I need everything nice and low. Which means when you put any paste on, it's literally hitting this and hitting the worktop. Nothing is stretching and pulling because it's all just sitting nicely. And it's also really wide as well. So I think my working boards are about 13 inch. This drum is 7 inch. I think this is 13 inch. So this will probably be about 14-15 inch wide. My working boards are just acrylic discs. I have many of these as well because once you have slapped ganache all over the place, the ganache sits on this rather than on your turntable, and also it's easy to kind of pick your cake up, take it somewhere else and put another cake on top rather than trying to kind of pick this board up that's full of ganache. I use lots of these working boards, and then my drum is on top getting ready for my 5 inch and 7 inch cakes, so that's what I'm going to get on with now. Right, I've just stuck my cake down to the board and I'm waiting for that to set. And very luckily my cake order has arrived because I've run out of paste. I do have colours, these are just some of the colours I was running out of, but I've actually run out of main white paste. Now I usually use Couture paste. I have used Renshaw's in the past before I switched to Couture. However, when I put my order in, nobody had any paste. Cake deck, cake stuff, I think Zoe's Fancy Cakes didn't have any couture, so couture must have just been out of stock everywhere. And I couldn't get hold of it, so I thought, well, I'll go back to Renshaw's and try Renshaw's again, just for this one time. They also didn't have any Renshaw's. So I have picked up one I have never heard of and I have never used before because desperation. We have 2 lots of 2.5 kilos, so I have 5 kilos of paste I have never used. I'm about to attempt to use it on this cake, but you have to do what you have to do. If they haven't got it, they haven't got it. So I'm expecting this one to be incredibly soft, but I am going to panel my cake. So paneling is easier because if you want to drape, that's where the softer pastes always rip on this top edge. So if you are working with a new paste, maybe try paneling because it might be a little bit easier for you. I also picked up a handy Phase dust. This one is Signature Gold. Sometimes I pick up Signature, sometimes I pick up Regency Gold. I like both of them. I just like to have them handy in my drawer. And I also picked up some drums that I was running out of. Also, it is very, very hot today, so I have this new bottle of, I'll keep my water in it, tells you how much to drink, and this is how ridiculous I am when it comes to liquids. I have never been a massive drinker, like ever, even when I was a kid. Like, I would go to people's houses and their parents would be like, you haven't had a drink since you have arrived, are you alright? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, I just literally do not drink anything. So I was supposed to have finished this first bottle all the way from the top down to the bottom by 2 p.m. It is 2:46 and I still have like half left. It's right there on the 500 mark, so I've only drank half of what I'm supposed to have drank, and you're supposed to drink 2 full ones of these in a day. That is not happening. So the cake I'm recreating, as I said, is one of my own designs. This was part of a tutorial on YouTube, so you can actually go and watch how to make Jareth on his throne on my channel. He will probably be under the toppers playlist. And I've also shown you how to do brickwork and stuff. So I'm essentially recreating this, but instead of having the age here on a plaque, we're having the 13-hour clock that often pops up in Labyrinth. And we'll probably put her name down here on the board. It is currently 26 degrees according to my phone. That'll be outside, not in the studio. It'll be hotter in here. And the hottest day is supposed to be Friday, so I'm hoping to just get as much as I can done tomorrow, really, in terms of modelling. Try and get the whole of the modelling done, or as much as I can. Because I still haven't sorted my aircon unit out. I know I am a pain. What is the point in buying one if I'm not going to use it? I bought it for this exact reason. And the reason I haven't turned it on or anything, if I showed you over there, it's ridiculous. The amount of cardboard boxes, I couldn't even get to it if I wanted to. But I haven't, this is why I haven't been able to measure the window. There's just too much stuff in the way, so I need to get at the window, I need to measure the window, so then I can order the right window kit and get it fitted. And I just haven't had the time or gotten round to it, because if you've been watching the vlogs, you know I've had cakes deliveries. Every time a vlog starts, it shows me making a cake or some ganache and then making the cake and delivering it, and that's pretty much my life from week to week. And I really try to have weekends completely off now. Sometimes I've been spending them, like this weekend just gone was a weekend at Chester Zoo because it was mine and Adam's anniversary. That is up on a completely different channel. The new channel is linked below now, but it's called Cherry Rambles, and that is where you'll find stuff that's not cake. So stuff like Chester Zoo, we're going to Alton Towers soon. So anything that's not cake is now on my new channel, so feel free to go and find that. Like I said, it's always linked below. So I do try to keep weekends just for me and my family rather than cakes, because I still end up delivering on a Saturday. So this cake will be delivered probably on a Saturday morning, and then I try to like start my weekend after that. But yes, I must get a window kit. Right, I'm going to try this paste out. It doesn't have a sticker on the packet, but it is in a regular blue packet how most sugar pastes arrive when you're buying 2.5 kilos. To be honest, I think most sugar pastes are all pretty much made the same. Some may have slight ingredient tweaks, some are just the same paste with a different branded sticker on. So this one is called Kluman and Bolter, says on the box, but it also is known as KB. Not just the letters, it's actually written KAYBEE, KB, white sugar paste. So I'm going to open this up now and see what it's like. Wow, so I can tell this is very, very soft compared to couture. Wow. So my couture usually like snaps. I can like peel the front block bit and it kind of just snaps off all in one rectangle. This is very, very soft. Wow. It's like chewing them. So I'm just going, I only need a little bit because I'm paneling, so I'm only going to be covering the very top of the cake. So I've just take out a little bit first and see how we get on with this. So yeah, first impressions, a little bit sticky to touch. Very, very soft, but very, very stretchy. Like chewing gum. Very, very easy to knead though. So if you struggle with kneading sugar paste, this is definitely the one for you because this is super soft. There have been times where on like a cold day, I've had to pop the couture into the microwave just for a couple of seconds just to start it off. I don't always like doing that though, because if you do put it in the microwave, you can speed up like the elephant skin process, like the drying process. It does speed that up a little bit. I don't like to do it very often. It's only if I'm really struggling to knead it or if I'm having a very lazy day, but this stuff is super easy to knead. All done already. So I'm going to roll this out into a circle now. It's getting quite sticky, so I'm going to need some icing sugar. Just dampening the cake off camera here to the right, just to get that top ready. Super easy to roll out. With it being soft, you don't need much pressure. You also do have to bear in mind though that it is a hot day here today. They were saying on the radio that maybe the hottest day of 2023 is yet to come on Friday. So it is rather hot here today. You probably hear my fan in the background. I've got my windows open. This is way big enough now, so I'm just going to cut a circle-ish, a rough circle out on top. So it does feel nice and smooth. I feel like it's going to be prone to air bubbles because it is soft. Yep, there's one there. So just need to pop that with an acupuncture needle and kind of push the air out. I'm just going to run my scalpel around the edges. This is what makes it difficult when it's a hot day, because your ganache is also soft. So rather than hitting up against something hard, so your scalpel, like you can feel where it needs to go to trim, you can end up sometimes cutting through your ganache because it's so soft. So you can see here I'm not quite up to the ganache, as I didn't want to kind of cut too much off. So I'm just going to go around again, take off any excess. So far so good, but that was the easiest part. Next we have to kind of roll it into a sausage to get it round here, and this is where the sausage could potentially stick to itself. So I'm going to have to put lots of icing sugar in between. So this has been really easy to roll out because it's been soft. I would say if you're looking for like paste couture, this is not it. But if you are struggling to get your hands on couture or any paste, you could possibly work with this one. I'm just going to take the air bubbles out because there's a few popping up, but that could also be due to the hot weather as well. But I'm going to pop some, yeah, it's sticking to the mat a little bit now. So I'm going to stick some icing sugar on the top to make sure that when I roll it up it doesn't stick together. One thing I will mention, because it is soft, it's hard to roll evenly. So I run my hands over and I can feel it dips a little bit there and then humps back up. So it's quite hard to roll it out evenly unless you had those rings on your rolling pin, or you use like a large sheeter or anything to roll it out all in one thickness. But because it is soft, it will dip a lot more with your rolling pin. Alright, so I'm going to attempt to roll this up now. Got some icing sugar on. I can already feel holding this, it wants to droop a lot. I'm going to get a lot of fingerprints in this, I think. I'm going to unroll it around the sides. Yeah, you can see right at the very end here where I started to roll it up. Let me zoom in. Started to roll this bit first. It's still super soft, but there's lots of elephant skin there where it had its first roll. But we should be able to buff that out with a smoother. Plus this cake is having lots of brick texture work, so it doesn't matter too much. I think it would only matter if you're trying to make a wedding cake with this sort of stuff. When you're looking for like a clean finish that doesn't have any texture. One thing though, I bet these seams will be super easy to get rid of because it's so soft. The softer your paste, the easier your seams are to kind of blend out. Right, that's the majority of it smoothed on just with the smedger. Now we're going to try and get rid of all the elephant skin and the seams and the lumps and bumps with a smoother. So I've got 2 acetate smoothers. Usually I do round the sides first with these. Just kind of going round in circles, trying to buff out that line. And any little holes and dints that they've got should, like you can see, I don't know if you can see on camera, there's a little dint there. You should be able to just smooth it if you go round in circles around it. It minimises it and then it will eventually disappear the more you smooth. Right, I've just taken the cake off the turntable now and put it on a piece of non-slip matting so that when I come to kind of smooth these edges, the cake's not going to keep turning round on me. I'm not sure how this is going to go with it being so super soft. Getting nice sharp edges, but we're struggling to blend the top panel with the sides at the minute. Right, I've gone all around the top edge now, and it does have a little bit of cracking around the very top edge. All I'll say is I'm very glad that this is going to have a brick texture on it. Like, you can see how easy it is to mark, but it's covered and it's kind of flat and it's got kind of sharp edges. So for this cake that we're making, it's absolutely fine, and you could get away with this for maybe shaped cakes, especially if you're doing dogs and things that require texture. This sort of soft paste will do texture really well because you only have to put like your tool into it very gently and it will make a big mark. So that'll be great for like fur, and I'm hoping the bricks will transfer nice and easily on this as well. it's actually half an hour until home time now on a Thursday, so partway through that montage it switched from Wednesday to Thursday. And I've been working on this all day, and this is where I got up to. I've literally just put Hoggle's head on right now, so he has no hair and no hat. So I'm just going to wait for his head to dry and put his hat and hair on tomorrow. I have the doors on. I also have Ludo fully made. Moving up, we've got the 13-hour clock, so this is what's gone in place of the age on the last cake, and then I've got the characters to pop out, and I thought I'd best leave that to set as well before I start fiddling around the back and ended up, I don't want it to pop off. And then I'm just going to place Jareth on top in a second so I can get his head in the right position. So when I lift this up here, if I put his head on now and he's looking at me like down at this height, when I put him up here, instead of looking at the recipient of the cake, because if you notice I try to get the characters to all kind of face the front of the cake at the person who's looking at it, and if I put Jareth up here now with a head already on, he could be kind of looking up, like looking up and away, because I don't know where his head is going to face until he's up there. So that's why I'm going to leave his head until I pop him up there, and then I can do that. And also it gives chance for his neck to set as well. I think it's pretty sturdy at the moment. That should be fine for tomorrow. And I'm still a couple of hours behind on my drink. It gives you like timestamps. I'm a couple of hours behind. So I'm going to go home roughly in about half an hour. I don't know what's for tea because we've got nothing in, so it probably scraps out of the freezer. Good morning. It is not quite 8 AM yet. I've just got to the studio and I am starting to work on Hoggle's hair and his hat. So I'm just painting his little bald head with water. Ready to go. Just thought I'd give you a final verdict on that sugar paste I've been using. I've still got another 2.5 kilo block there, and I have a small part of a packet left here, but it does take texture really, really well. So this is perfect for if you're making dogs, cats, anything where you're going to be adding fur, tree trunks, things like that. Any really deep, heavy texture, this will be perfect for. What it's not perfect for is elegant, tall wedding cakes. For wedding cakes and something with a very clean, straight edge finish, you're going to want something tougher. So the tougher paste, you've got kind of couture, which kind of sits towards the tougher end, but the toughest paste is usually things like masa. Masa is a very like kind of hard and tough paste, which is perfect for weddings. And then if you're in a pinch, if you're in a bit of a struggle and you can't get your sugar paste like I did, I just couldn't get hold of it, I've bought this one, I've managed it, and I've even done some modelling with it. The only bit I will say, which is quite annoying, let me just knead this piece, but say I like rolled out a sausage and it's got a tapered end, and you know when you just kind of pull it to nip the end off the paste, you can't nip the end off this paste. So I'll just show you. I'll roll a sausage and say I just want to kind of like pinch this off. If it was couture, it would just kind of like snap off where I pull it. If I pull this, you see that? That is what it creates. If this was couture, it would have done kind of that. But yeah, if you pull it, it does create, it's very, very, I know I've said it before, but it's a lot like chewing gum. It's very, very stringy. Look at how thin that string is that I've just pulled away. Yeah, so it's annoying like when you're modelling something and you think, oh, I'll just nip that little end off. You end up pulling really long strings, but that's just one of those things. I suppose you'll get used to using it and its behaviour. One thing you do have to learn when you start cake decorating is how different things work. And a lot of people always ask me, how on earth do you use Renshaw's paste? Like, Renshaw's is usually too soft for people. They're saying like, how the heck are you modelling straight from paste? How do you even use Renshaw's? But that's because I have learned its ways. It's what I started out with, because back in the day when I started, I've been decorating a heck of a long time, over 20 years. So back then, 20 years ago, there was no coloured paste as there is now. There's several options now. Back in our day, it was either colour it yourself or pay extra for your coloured Renshaws. So because that's what I've learnt with, I have learnt its ways, I have learnt its nuances, and you just, even each different colour has its differences. So like the chocolate brown, I adore the chocolate one, and they keep changing it, and it went away for a while, and now they've changed the packaging, and I couldn't get my hands on it this time round again either. But the chocolate paste is also very stringy like that, but it's one of my favourite browns. I don't like the regular brown paste. It's got too much of a red tinge to it. But that behaves differently than all the other different colours. So like purple, for example, will feel different to the blue. The Atlantic blue is very different. So you just get used to what each colour feels like and how it's going to behave, and that in turn makes you work with it a little bit differently. So if you're using things and just thinking, I can't get this to go right, it's just probably because you haven't quite learned its ways yet. So I've been learning this one. I knew it was soft when I opened it, so I've just kind of been learning as I've been going along on what I can and cannot do with it. But I'm going to use this white now to add Hoggle's hair, and I'll check back in with you when I'm ready to do the Goblin King's face. It's now the afternoon and I'm back from dinner, and this is what I've managed to get done since the last clip. So we now have Hoggle completely finished, holding his peach. We have a tiny little blue worm. The name is also on there. Little boulders, patches of grass, the little eyes as well. Got Ambrosius. We now have the hands on the clock, we have a fiery, we have Sir Didymus, more eyes, and all that is left to do, I've decorated around the back as well, so there's more like boulders and grass. And the last thing to do is place on the Goblin King's head. So I want to be able to kind of chat to you, but also model the head and show you that, and there isn't really a way to do that with the one camera. Also, this angle is absolutely awful. Say hello to my second chin. But I have just got a ball of flesh coloured paste and I'm rolling it into my head shape. First thing I always do is hold this up to the model to make sure it's the right size, because the last thing you want is to model the whole face to realise it's either too small or too big. Right, so I'm happy with that, and I'm just going to pull up a picture of the Goblin King as reference. And whilst I start the basics, I am just like going to start tapping in the eyes and nose and stuff. I thought I would chat to you about The Little Mermaid we watched last night. Sorry, there's lots of noise going on. There's a van, the truck reversing outside. I have my fan on, windows open. And I don't know if I actually mentioned this, because a few of you might be confused with why have I suddenly now got Disney Plus when we cancelled it. So if you've been watching along in the vlogs, you'll know we cancelled Disney Plus a while back. Just trying to cut down on different subscriptions here and there. And as I cancelled it, it's been cancelled for a few months, and then O2, who I have my phone contract with, was giving 6 months free Disney Plus to kind of like select accounts. And my account was one of them. So I was like, yes, please. So we have that until February. So we have Disney Plus for free, and Little Mermaid went up on there this week. So as I'm filming this, it only went up this week, and we decided to watch it last night. Now, I have mentioned this before, I am not a fan of the live actions. I just don't like them. There's something that, like, the magic is kind of lost. I will say The Little Mermaid is one of the better ones. I think there's only like Aladdin and The Little Mermaid which I was able to tolerate. There were some good bits. To me, the only good bits is when she kind of got onto land and she had her legs, because there was just something really off. I mean, mermaids don't exist, but there was something really off about how their body was kind of worked into the CGI of them turning them into mermaids. It was just a little bit off. There was a lot of it that was quite cringe. I'm not good with cringy stuff. Really not good with cringy stuff. And they did cut one of my favourite scenes. So one of my favourite scenes from The Little Mermaid is when Sebastian the crab almost gets eaten, and Chef Louis is kind of preparing the seafood in the kitchen, and that didn't make it. But like I said, I did enjoy it more than all the others, so I'll definitely give it a watch. I'll just show you where I'm up to. So whilst I've been chatting, we now have a face, a nose and some eye sockets. My hands are all blue from making that little blue worm. And now I'm going to start tapping in his mouth, so I will show you this bit. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see at this angle, but I'll try my best. So I often try to put the heads, I handle them if I can, just so that the back of the head doesn't go completely flat, because the more you're pressing down on mouths and eye sockets, you're flattening the back of the head to the point where it just becomes a pancake. And it is pretty flat already because there is no tile or anything in this, but I'm going to bulk his head out anyway with all the hair he has. But it's just a little tip to try and handle and kind of like cup and curve your fingers to try and keep a head shape. But the Goblin King doesn't really smile too much, so I'm just going to mark in his mouth, give him his bottom lip, just by tapping underneath. And then we've got to sort his chin out. And then his top lip. Kind of has like a little smirk on some of the pictures. Accidentally squashed his nose there, so we need to kind of define the bridge of the nose again. And give him some nostrils. Now, I'm not the best at creating human figures and human likenesses. You do also have to take into account how long this is taking you. If it's for a customer's cake, then they've paid a certain amount for this figure. So you put extra, say, 6 hours into a figure to try and capture every little tiny bit of likeness, you've gone way above what they've paid. So you do have to be sensible. And choosing kind of like how long you spend on it and when to stop. Of course you want to put on the best work you can, but like I said, that your best work might come out of a 9-hour stint of just doing a head. If you want to see how much those would cost, you can always head to Etsy and kind of type in any sort of figure that you're looking for, and somebody will have handmade one out of clay and it will look amazing and it will be hundreds of pounds. You have to keep that into account. Right, I'm kind of happy where that is at the moment. I am now going to just insert some whites of the eyes, but his back of the head is getting quite sticky where I'm holding it, so I'm just going to pop him back down on this foam. Also a fun fact, if you didn't know, that David Bowie had 2 different coloured eyes. I learnt this when I was making my very first Goblin King figure. I think that was back in 2013, and it was my first ever entry into Cake International. So I'd visited Cake International before, just to have a look, and I was like, oh man, these are some insane cakes. And then it was a few years later that I decided to pluck up the courage and enter myself. And I entered the wedding category with an alternative wedding cake, of course. And to my surprise, at my first ever Cake International, I got first place gold, which blew me away, and I completely was not expecting it. They'd called everybody's names out to go and collect the certificates in the different places, and I legitimately just thought they had forgotten to call my name out, because all these names were coming out, and then it was like 3rd place, 2nd place, and I'm thinking, oh my god, they've completely forgotten to call my name out. I'll have to go and get my certificate later on, not even thinking that they would call my name out for 1st place. Like, I was a newbie. First one, didn't really know what I was doing. But yeah, So that was pretty cool. And I learnt that he had 2 different coloured eyes. I don't think he has 2 different coloured eyes. I think maybe one of his pupils had kind of like leaked into his, you know, the black bit had leaked into the coloured bit. I don't know what the technical term is. Which makes one eye look darker or a different colour than the other one. But I'm just giving him black eyes. I'm giving him cartoony eyes and little white ones for catch lights in between. This is where now I'm just going to paint his makeup on whilst his head is flat down here, and then I will transfer the head and finish him off like the hair and everything. So for his makeup, he has kind of like white triangle pieces. So it covers his eye and then it kind of goes up into a point, and it is outlined with black. So I'm going to paint the white inner first, and then I can go around the outsides with black once it's dried. I don't want to put the black on now because it will leak. I'll spin that around and draw the other one on. This is my downfall, getting 2 things to look the same, like 2 eyebrows. If anything has to be symmetrical, I have had it. So I'm going to let that white dry whilst I paint his lips. And we don't want anything too harsh because he's not wearing lipstick or anything. So I've just got some pink gel on a plate. Realise you can't see anything there. I've got some pink gel on a plate and I'm watering it right down until it's just like a pink wash. And I've got a very fine paintbrush. And then I'm just going to sweep that across his lips. Like, you can hardly tell it's there, but it's just enough pink that it looks different to the flesh colour. I think we've stopped calling it flesh colour now, haven't we? Is it peach? Might be peach that this is on this packet now. Because as we know, flesh comes in all different shades and colours. Now I'm taking a dry brush and I've just got some pink luster. I'm just putting it in the cap so I don't put too much on. Like, I don't think he actually has any blush on, but he's the Goblin King. He's got makeup on. We want him to look a bit fancy, so I'm just going to give him a tiny little bit of shimmer on each cheek. And now I'm going in with some metallic black paint. Just trying to find a closer picture here on my phone, or a better kind of angle of his makeup. Right, so this is kind of like an extension of his eyebrows. So it kind of starts here and then curves off up to match the makeup. Like, I have made the Goblin King so many times. I'll just pop just a couple on screen. My first ever one, like I said, was in 2013 as my competition cake. And that just kind of set off a whole bunch of people asking for Labyrinth cakes, because I don't think people realised they could have cakes like that back then. People were having, like, you know, the odd little novelty cake and stuff, but when I entered the wedding category, it did upset a few people, because all the wedding cakes in that category were obviously the traditional type. White, 3-tiered cakes, flowers on, and then you had mine kind of sat in the middle, and it did upset a few people that I won with it, because they were like, that's not a wedding cake. But to me, it's a wedding cake. I have now made a business out of it, so there you go. Right, I'm just going to take a little bit of this black just up the outside and sort of like smoke it out a little bit so it's not quite as harsh as a line. And one just to define the top of the eye. I always mess at least one side up. Right, here we have our Goblin King's face, and I'm now going to gently position this on top of my cocktail stick. Let's see if we can get this to go on there nicely. So this is what it looks like from the front. I know it looks absolutely crazy at the moment because he hasn't got his big hair. You have to imagine he has very big fluffy hair. But this is what I meant about him looking straight at the recipient of the cake. So this is right at the front. We have all the characters here facing me, stood right here, and he's looking directly at me. Like, if I had made him Like, he could have been looking over there. I might have swiveled his head too far over here, or he might have been looking up. So this is why I do this afterwards. So he just needs his hair now, and hopefully he'll look a little bit more like the Goblin King. Right, I'm all done. He has his hair, and I have added a little bit of airbrushing as well, like around the doors where there would be like shadows at the bottom of the doors, round the foliage. But here he is in his little spiky hairdo. I'm absolutely melting right now. It's very, very, very hot today, especially as it's getting later into the afternoon. What time is it? So it's 3:50, so it's almost home time for a Friday. I'm going to quickly grab some photos of it, box it, and then I think I'm going to take it home because it's going to be safer where it's a little bit cooler at home in its box. And then we are delivering this one to a home address tomorrow, so I can't show you that. But a very special cake for Ali, who is turning 50. It is now the following week. I delivered the cake, everything went fine. Like I said, it went to a private address, so I didn't film that. But I have since had a message from the birthday girl saying she was absolutely speechless with the cake and she really liked it, so that's always good. But this vlog is long enough, so I was just coming on to end it. Thank you to everyone who has watched my very first video over on my Cherry Rambles page. Super chuffed to have like 160 of you over there now. There will be another video coming soon, or it may even already be up because I'm going to be filming that one this week as I am filming this. But you can catch up with me either on this channel or the new one. So I will see you on whichever one you choose.